I have here a cacti beverage from Travis Scott, the one, the only, the famous Travis Scott. It's pineapple flavored. This is an alcoholic seltzer.
Does it taste like pineapple or cactus? Sorry.
It is agave spiked seltzer, so it tastes like agave, and then this allegedly tastes like pineapple. There's a pineapple flavoring in it.
And have you had
The
it yet?
room, no, not the pineapple flavor. It smells like pineapple. There's a lime, a strawberry, and then this. I had the lime. Zenobia had the strawberry. She thought hers was disgusting, and I thought mine was like, I really I just wanted to finish it. So I didn't like it at all, the lime one. I just wanted it to be over. So we'll see what the pineapple one's about. It smells better than the lime one did.
I thought you said you didn't like pineapple.
I really don't like pineapple, but pineapple flavoring is kind of different. I won't eat a pineapple.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's something about these. They're 7% alcohol, so they have quite a bit of that in there, and they don't taste like alcohol, which is nice. But they have this flavor that just tastes like straight up poison. It's just like that thing at the front where you're just like,
Right, it's agave. I can't drink agave flavored stuff like agave syrup. I can't do it.
No, it's like metallic almost. It's almost like the can is in the drink. There's like a bit of a ting, like a twang, like a tang. You know what I mean? A little bit of a bite. Anyway, it's a drink. It's fine. I'm sure it's whatever, but just wanted to give my take on the cacti. It tastes like pineapple, and then it goes away, and there's not much alcohol flavor.
I see. And what flavor did you say you had left to try between you and Synovia?
Well, there's 3. So there's pineapple, strawberry, and lime. When we first got the case, I had a lime one. She had a strawberry one. So we both tried each other's and didn't like them. And then now I figured I would try the pineapple as some hot content for our convo, you know?
It doesn't sound like any of those are good.
No, well, I don't know. I've never really had a seltzer that I liked. There's one of I think it's Truly or one of those, but it was like a wild berry, whatever flavor that was pretty nice. You had that one at your house that one time, that like berry mix can.
Oh, quarterly?
I don't know, dude. It looked fancy as shit, and the way you just pronounced that sounded expensive. So I'm guessing that's the same thing.
No, it's like $5 for 6 or something. I think they're like Norwegian or Swedish or something.
I don't think it's 5. I think it's only 4 packs, and I remember paying $7 for a 4 pack. I was like, damn, Yazeed's living like this.
No, homie. If I drank that, I'd also pass out probably. So.
But yeah, no, I'm not really a seltzer fan. But this is fine. I just wanted to try it because it's sold out everywhere. Because Travis Scott is Travis Scott, and it'll always be sold out everything he does. I bought this on the internet. Like, there's an alcohol shipping thing I used, and so I ordered this and a bunch of other stuff like E40 wine, and it all came in a box in like 36 hours. It was crazy. So.
Are you just buying all the wrapper alcohol now?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Like, I'm not really interested in trying a lot of different stuff. Like, I know what I like, and I generally don't really care enough to try stuff I don't like. Like, I wouldn't really try a new seltzer in general. Mm-hmm. But it's like, oh, shit, Travis Scott. Or, oh, E40 made a bourbon. E40 made a bourbon. But it's like $90 for the bottle, and I am not paying that much for a bottle of bourbon when I don't know it's good. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'll pay that if it's good, and whatever. But then it's like how do you know if it's good if you've never had it before? You got to pay for it to see if it's good type thing. But I don't know. I won't try that $90 bourbon.
See, what you got to do is you got to go to a bar that has it, and then you pay for one whatever they come in.
That's what's super fun. Yeah, one cup whiskey, please. There was a whiskey bar in Seattle that we went to, and they had basically that. And it was just, probably hundreds of different options of whiskey for you to try. It's just crazy because if you see the bottle of Total Wine, you're like, okay, that bottle I know costs $60, and you're selling me shots for $16. And it just feels so shitty being like, okay, most of these I know I can get at Total Wine, and the ones I can't, I know you're fucking me on the price. And I can't get them at Total Wine because they're kind of rare and limited, and that actually makes you mark them up even more. So like, for example, there's a bottle of bourbon called Pappy Van Winkle, and I think it's aged 15 years. There's like Old Van Winkle or Rip Van Winkle or whatever, which is aged 10, and then another that's 15 or 12 and 15. I forget. The point is, it's a Buffalo Trace distillery. They're like one of the oldest distilleries in the country. They make a really good whiskey called Buffalo Trace. It's a bourbon, I think. And then they also do one called Eagle Rare. It's like two of my favorites. But they have this crazy limited batch stuff they make called Pappy Van Winkle. And I think it's like the original recipe from however, like hundreds of years ago. They make them in the same amount of thing. Like they don't increase their supply for demand. Like it's still the same amount of stuff, like forever. Yeah. Anyway, so they do releases in this super limited run where like only specific vendors or retailers will have access to sell Pappy Van Winkle, and I guess there's politics involved in like who gets them and weird process of who gets them from the distillery. And then when they get them, there's like lotteries to people who go to those at liquor stores of like, oh, you can enter our thing, because you don't just like put it on the shelf because it's such a crazy limited crazy thing. And the actual bottles themselves cost like $200. But the crazy thing is, there's a resale market for this stuff where it'll go up to like $3,000-$4,000 for a bottle of alcohol or of whiskey. But the problem is that selling alcohol is illegal. You don't have a license to sell alcohol as an individual. You can't sell somebody a bottle of alcohol on eBay or whatever. Mm-hmm. So there's like these black market Facebook groups of people selling whiskey and like trading expensive stuff for like Pappy Van Winkle or whatever. Anyway, that's that bottle, and I would like to try it because it's up there from the same distillery that I like, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of just whatever, but I'm never going to pay anywhere close to those numbers for anything like that. But the whiskey bar in downtown Seattle, they would give you a shot of Pappy Van Winkle. They had it in stock, but I think it was $280 for a shot. And I was just like, extra fuck that. Like, no, you can't savor that enough. Like, every little sip costs $50, $30.
That's too expensive. That's way too expensive.
Yeah.
You could pay for like 3 meals for that amount of money. So
3 nice meals.
Yeah.
Like really nice meals. Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. It's fascinating though. Like, I actually know somebody who got a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle from a Facebook group like that. I never followed up to ask him how it was or if they even opened it.
Yeah, that's got to be like one of those things where like, what happens if it's like opened? Like, do they reseal it? Like they just bought like a different one and then poured it in? Like, how do you know?
I'm sure there's a bunch of scams that people do with that stuff. I don't know. That's the crazy thing is like, if you've never had it, how do you guarantee it's real? And if it's illegal, what do you do? It's like drug dealing. You sold me a bag of flour, but god damn it, I can't prove it. You know?
What are you gonna do? Take me to the coppers?
I'm pretty sure that's happened before. I remember reading on Reddit or whatever years ago, some dude got in trouble because he called the police on his drug dealer for selling him fake drugs.
And he got in trouble for it?
I don't remember the follow-up. I just remember there was like some report of it, or someone said someone reported it.
Oh, I'm sure you could call the cops on as like an anonymous tip, but I don't know how anonymous that is.
Yeah, I don't really know. But
you gotta buy like a burner, and then you gotta like use like a VPN, and then like another thing, and then you call it and like, why are we getting a call from Estonia? And it's like, I'm not from Estonia. I'm from the city, and there's a drug dealer selling us flour.
You gotta put on the voice too.
Yeah.
Very important. Did you want to start? Are we starting to do this at some point?
Yeah, we can start this thing up.
Okay.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Scheduled and GPU'd episode 74 of the Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and today is Monday, March 22nd, 2021. Today for home game stuff, we've got some updates on the website and kind of asset management service stuff that I've been working on. And Yazeed has some stuff that looks like more math and programming stuff, which is a shift in content for this podcast.
That's right. But before we get into that, how are you, man? What's going on?
I'm good. I would like to note a few weeks ago, I mentioned on this podcast that there was no legal way to play Ratchet and Clank, and that's why I was breaking the law and playing Ratchet and Clank on an emulator. I was incorrect on that. I'm probably incorrect on a lot of things every week on this podcast, but I was incorrect on that. I completely forgot they did a remastered collection of Ratchet and Clank, the first 3 games, on the PS3 about 8-10 years ago, something like that. And I completely forgot that they came out with it. I also forgot that I own it and that I beat it. Like, I played the Ratchet and Clank 1 remaster or whatever, however long ago. And anyway, I went to go visit my mom this weekend just to go hang out, and I had a bunch of video games I was going through, and I saw that and was like, what the fuck? I have no idea, this whatever. And so ended up bringing home my PS3 and Ratchet and Clank, so I've been playing Ratchet and Clank, the original, the kind of remaster whatever on PS3. It probably looks worse than the emulator, the stuff that I was playing before, because before it was up-resing to like 4K and whatever on my monitor. But now it's just, I think, 1080-60, and then upscaled to 4K instead of native 4K. Anyway, it looks fine, and it runs at 60 FPS, and that's basically all I need. And the stability of having it on a console is really nice. So basically, I'm playing that full time until the next Ratchet and Clank comes out. I have, I think, 6 Ratchet and Clank games to play, kind of start to finish, so we'll see how that goes.
Hey, nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. I've never gotten to play any of the Ratchet and Clank games, so I know they're like super highly rated.
Yeah, I never had a classic games are classics like Mario 64 or Crash Bandicoot, that kind of stuff. I never really had those as a kid. I was aware of those games. Like, my cousin played Mario 64 in the same room as me, but I never really played it or understood why it was important. Mm-hmm. So for me, Ratchet and Clank was the first one of those that I think today is regarded in that same kind of a thing of like classic platformers. So yeah, and I think about that game too. My mom got it for me into like when it came out, because she asked the dude at GameStop, like, what would a little dude, like a little boy, like to play, And he was like, I don't know, this one with guns and a wrench that you hit dudes with. And it's like, oh shit, that guy's recommendation to my mom at the GameStop formed my game taste as a person forever. It's kind of interesting how that happened, but yeah, anyway, Ratchet and Clank is great. There's something about that world and the characters and the sense of humor and stuff. It's just really like a special game.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Like, everyone I know who's played it is like, oh, that game was amazing. And I feel kind of like, I wish I had gotten a chance to play it.
I mean, it still exists. It's the beauty of that stuff. It kind of is my whole thing with the importance of emulators and the availability for games to be playable, 10, 20 years after they come out, because it would be super trash if 20 years from now someone was like, damn, Ratchet and Clank, I heard that was a classic. Too bad. Like, we have nothing capable of playing that anymore. Like, you could look at the box.
Here's a picture of the box.
Yeah.
I think as long as we have digital anything, there'd be a way to eventually get it to work. I think eventually people would forget about it, though. Like, there just wouldn't be anyone alive who cares.
Well, yeah, that's true for all of us. One day we'll all be forgotten like Coco, and that's okay. But, life goes on.
I get that reference. I watched them. I'm gonna tell two dog stories, and then I'll hand it back over to you. But okay. So this week was the restart, or not restart, but it's Agility 2. So it's our next set of classes for Agility for Sapphire. And her only ever dog friend was in that class, and she actually played with that dog, like dog play, like paw play and stuff like that. I was so happy. I can't even describe how happy I was to see her being able to like play and like mess around with another dog without trying to kill them.
Nice.
Oh, God,
that's real progress.
Yeah, it was great. We only play after we've finished the class, so that's like an hour of like really intense agility course running. So so she's like super tired, which means like she's pretty chill. So yeah. I think it works out well.
Nice. Do you think that that's a prerequisite for her to be chill with other dogs, or that she could just be chill normally?
I think we need to get her to the point where she can just naturally be chill with other dogs, but I think that there's going to be like there's like a learning curve, right? Because I don't think that she ever got to spend like positive time with other dogs, if that makes sense, before I got her. And then while I've had her, I've been pretty wary of letting her get close to dogs, because every time she's gotten close, it's been like snapping and growling and like really going for him. So I think she needs to learn. So when she's like really tired, like panting, like exhausted, I think that's the time to like let her start to like learn and get a feel for like what it's like to have another dog that's her friend.
Nice. That's very cool. I don't think I've ever had two dogs that lived like under my ownership together for more than like 5 minutes. It's like, okay, yeah, you know, that's my mom's dog or whatever, and then this is like some other family person's dog, and they're here right now, and they kind of hate each other, and they're gonna go away in 5 minutes, and that's okay. But like multiple dogs in the same place for a long time, I'm very happy I've never had to deal with that.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, if I want to do search and rescue with her, she's gotta get over it. So I mean, that's, you know, it's something we're gonna have to figure out and work through. But yeah, I was so stoked. I was like elated leaving class that day. I was like, oh my god.
Does search and rescue need to, like, when they vet you, when you apply, do they make sure that Sapphire, like, will they try to make her mad and stuff like that to see how she reacts, like try to pressure test her or stress test her?
I don't know, actually. I mean, part of the training is you know, they like work up to it. Like in the start, like I'm very close to her because I'm the handler, so I'll have to like be with her whenever we're doing like the training. But then like as we ramp up and as she gets better, assuming she does get better at all and can even do this, eventually we get to a point where I just send her out and I'm not even with her. It like the procedure is called like search and refind. Basically, she goes out and she finds whatever person I'm told her to look for. Then she comes back to get me, and then we go together to that person again. So when we get to like that level, I imagine there's a lot of stress on, not like stress, but like there's a lot of pressure on her, right? Because she is an arbitrary distance away from anybody who can properly handle her or knows how to like deal with her. So yeah, but I don't know if they like specifically try to like make her mad or anything like that. I do think they probably try to distract her with like, oh, here's like toys and stuff like that, which she's actually like pretty good about not focusing on. But if they were like, here's a live rabbit, then I might have a problem.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking because search and rescue, I'm pretty sure is like cops. They need to have some level of safety, whatever thing for her and you and
different counties like volunteer search and rescues under different people. I think where we're at, it's actually under the fire department, so you deal with like a smaller set of people or a smaller set of problems basically. And then also like because it's volunteer, you could always be like, I don't want to go after the police, this is criminal. I'll go after like hikers that got lost, but I don't know if like I'm a human willing to like, there's some bank robbers out in the wilderness that are maybe need some help. I might be like, I don't know if I can risk me and my dog's safety for that.
Maybe are in need of a car with maybe someone deliver them a car and maybe they'll gun that person down.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might be where I would have to like draw the line. But I mean, yeah, I was super stoked about that, and that's still like a ways off because we got to still start her on search and rescue training, and we're working on like the component pieces, right? Like she's done agility, done obedience. We work on scent work. It's like we're getting there. It basically right now I need to fix her temperament problems around other dogs and maybe get her to narrow down her focus when we're doing certain activities so she doesn't just be like rabbit, chase rabbit.
Right.
But yeah.
Very cool. She's making progress.
Yes, big progress. Other than that, I gotta say I started watching dog grooming videos on YouTube, which are just like surprisingly relaxing. It's like an hour of people just like washing dogs and like trimming them up and stuff, and it's pretty chill.
Okay, it seems like that's the new wave of ASMR. It's like just put your mic up to you petting the dog or whatever, and then whispering just like, that's a good boy or whatever.
Jesus. No, they don't do that exactly. It's more like they just like go through and they like explain what they're doing. But what really cracks me up is when they're like trying to wash a dog like a husky, because they're like very vocal, and so then like they spray the dog's just like it just really cracks me up to like hear this dog like screaming in the background, the person being like, don't worry, I'm not hurting them. They're just like spraying them down with water. So it's not really like ASMR for those ones. It's more like listening to somebody bathe a very upset dog.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the opposite of relaxing.
Yeah, very much so.
For kind of like a show and scheduling notes thing, I just had a couple of stuff before home games topics. Hold on, I heard a weird noise. I'll be right back. No worries, everything is great. The weird noise was just a weird noise.
Okay.
Nice. No, but I had notes about scheduling and whatever, how the show stuff is going to work over the next month or so, because it will be different. So I registered my car last week. That's very nice, and so I can finally drive again. And so next week we'll probably go back to in person, which is crazy because most of this has been a COVID podcast where, basically the whole intention from the start was I'm going to move back home in 8 months and we'll do this in person starting June 2020. And then the world shit its pants and then we had to do this remote for over a year or whatever. So anyway, we'll go back to that next week. That'll be very exciting. And then in terms of like kind of actual episodes coming up, because I'm going to a wedding at the beginning of April, and that's my wedding, and Yazeed will be there as well. And so we have to do some planning around when we record this stuff. So this one comes out on the 24th of March. And then the one after that will be episode 75 on the 31st. And then the one after that on the 7th of April will be episode 76. And that's the last one that'll be like regular before wedding stuff. So that whole week, I'm going to be on vacation from the 7th to the 14th. And I'm not doing any home games, anything that whole week. So the week of 4/14, April 14th, we're basically probably going to like double record, probably a question thing. I have like a list of questions I want to ask Yazeed. It's kind of like a project check-in type 2021 thing. So we might do something with that. But anyway, after that, it'll go back to normal on the 21st of April. That episode 78 will be our first like regular what this thing will be for the foreseeable future episode.
Nice.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Yes. So please stay tuned. High quality material is going to be happening starting next week. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we won't have the weird... It's very hard doing this remote because there's like that 20 millisecond delay, and that little delay does a lot in having a conversation with a person about when you start talking or like when the other person, you can see it in their face that they have no response, so you have to keep giving them something to like respond to eventually. It's very hard to read these things.
Yeah, having a conversation over the internet is surprisingly difficult.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just assume that like having a podcast is very similar to like doing comms for a video game, but it's really not. Because I don't know, often people re-listen to their comms when they're playing video games with huge periods of silence. I can't imagine a podcast with like 3.5 minutes of us just staring at each other doing nothing.
Also, just quick note about this cacti. It tastes like shit, and if it's not cold, it gets worse. So I gotta drink this. But
chug.
No, I'm not gonna chug it. I'm just making note of the fact that it's dropped or increased in temperature by like maybe 10 degrees, and it has become 50% more undrinkable. So time is of the essence for sure. Travis Scott was retweeting a bunch of kids. Wait, what?
So go ahead, finish your point. I was gonna ask you a question.
I was gonna say Travis Scott was retweeting a bunch of kids just like shotgunning these, like doing the key thing and the side and just fucking gulping them, and they might have a point with that. This might be made to do that because it's not good to taste. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna ask if you can cut it with something. Like, do you think like mixing it with like water or like straight up pineapple juice would help?
Maybe pineapple juice would be good. I feel like mixing it with water would be hilarious because it's already a seltzer. Watering down a seltzer makes you like this. It makes you a very low tier individual in my head, I guess, is what I will say.
This water is too spicy. I have to add regular water to it.
But no, with some juice it'd be good. I think people mix wine with seltzer sometimes. That might be all right. But the flavor in this is strong, and it has that kind of like chemically flavor, like I said.
Yeah. That sounds like a unique kind of nightmare. I actually, I bought myself like a fancy boy soda from like Trader Joe's And then I drank it, and it is so insanely carbonated. I like everything about it, but it's so carbonated that I've just actually just left it to go flat a little bit so I can drink it and enjoy it. Because I was like, I just had this, like, I had sincere burps when I was trying to drink it.
Yeah, like those chest rattling, like earth shattering burps.
Yeah, like when it hurts going down, and then when you burp, but it actually like stings when you burp. Like it's that kind. Like it's like that burp. It's like that burp is so tightly compacted from your guts that it's just like, oh, like that one hurt. Yeah.
Yeah. That's rough.
I thought about just having the bottle here and just start chugging it, but I thought better of it.
What makes a soda? Why would you pick this soda over like a Coca-Cola?
I don't know. It's like an Italian soda from like Trader Joe's, so it's like less sugar overall, more of like a delicate flavor than Coca-Cola. But also Coca-Cola gives me intense heartburn, so I only drink like a small set of sodas.
Okay.
Like Sprite is basically like my main soda of choice.
Yeah, that seems to be the go-to for a lot of people. I don't really get it. I was never a Sprite person, but I was just curious because soda is kind of generally soda to me. It's like I wouldn't seek a particular soda unless it was like really life-changing.
You wouldn't go out and buy like a $25 like cream soda or a sarsaparilla.
I guess I've never experienced the one that was good enough for me to think about it like that. I've had some good cream soda. That's probably my favorite that I would pay for like that, like in a nice glass bottle. I have a weakness for that stuff, but no, nothing. Especially at $25, that's crazy. That's Pappy Van Winkle level soda costs.
I actually don't know what the upper end is for sodas. I imagine root beer is considered way more. It's like probably like way more expensive.
Really?
Probably.
I have no idea why, but I believe you.
If I'm not mistaken, it's really big in the Mormon community, root beer. So.
Okay.
That is completely hearsay. If anyone is a Mormon, I'm not Mormon. I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I have no idea what Mormon people drink, but more you know, tidbits. That's why this podcast is great. You get information from all over the place. You get Young Thug, you get Mormon beverages, you get technology. You got all these things in one.
I learned that from the movie SWAT.
From like 2005 with LL Cool J.
Yes. The dude who's in the dude who like hands out the guns to people, like the armory dude. Uh-huh. He's drinking like Dr. Pepper, and it's like super obvious product placement. Oh, and the like dude is like, hey, I thought your wife's Mormon, like you shouldn't be drinking that, and is like, she doesn't know.
It's caffeine, right?
And then I think like later on you see him with his wife and is drinking like Barks root beer, whatever the Coca-Cola equivalent is. Because I think at that time Coca-Cola like was distributing Dr. Pepper or something.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. Remember, everyone, I watched that movie one time, so I even could be getting like details wrong, but I'm like pretty sure that's how that goes down.
Yeah, well, that's basically all the research we need for this podcast. I think I saw it in a movie one time, therefore it's real.
I don't even know. Yeah, that movie could just be lying. It's not like
Yeah. But I didn't have anything like for life updates or anything outside of Ratchet and Clank and this trash ass beverage.
I got you. Basically the last thing that's not coding related that I want to talk about is my HoloLive, my VTuber application is due in like 2 days. So
oh shit.
Yeah, I got to like edit a video and like edit sound narration over that video and then fill out the application, send it off.
I found myself thinking when I was at work today, I was just like, I don't know why I thought of you, but I was like, he's going to become a very famous and successful VTuber, and then he's going to leave me in the fucking dust over here. No, and I'm going to be like doing these solo sad ass podcasts with 2 views each week, and they're both me checking to see the audio is good, and you're going to be like 4 million fucking whatever a week, just balling out.
No. I thought about how I would connect real Yazeed's projects to VTuber Yazeed's projects, and I was like, here's what you do, right? You pay people to come up with like a Twitter bot network, and they accidentally follow me, like they follow like my actual Twitter account and then my like VTuber Twitter account, and then my actual Twitter account's like, hey, why are all these people following me? And then it's like, oh, I'm not the VTuber, but like while I'm here, like I'm just gonna plug some stuff, and then I just plug home
So
games.
shitty.
And then the actual VTuber Yazeed is like, I'm sorry, like my people are harassing you. Because I'll know if like they're harassing me. So like, then I use home games on stream, and then boom, there we go, home games becomes popular.
That would be so shitty. I feel like people would hate you and then also home games.
Only if they found out that it was the same person.
They were going to record and upload this.
Yeah, well, the thing is that you would have to go through quite a while. From what I understand, like when they pick you up, you go through like 6 months of training. So this would be 6 months old at that point.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's such a weird world. It's like you can be a person who completely like exists in a world and contributes to the economy and pays taxes and has a social life, and the world, like, you make all your money from this character and no one actually knows who's behind it. That's kind of nuts.
It really is. It really is. I think there's like a nice safety in there for people who don't want to be harassed, which I'm included in that. I don't want to be harassed.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're already here. I mean, everything we say on this is public, so we should expect harassment.
I haven't gotten like death threats or anything from this, so I think it's okay.
We haven't reached the number of people. Like, there's some, you know how like for herd immunity you need 75% or whatever of the population to be whatever.
Yeah.
It's like there's some mathematical number on a graph somewhere where I can say at this point it is mathematically impossible to not get death threats. Once you have like 18 weekly listeners, guaranteed at least one of them is going to try to kill you.
Yeah. Dark and probably also accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, you were telling us about that one dude who just got breast milk on stage live and just drank it.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that dude was a legend. He died like a month after that, completely unrelated.
Oh.
Pretty fucked, but yeah.
I'm sorry for laughing. I thought it was gonna be related, but that even would be also.
No, I know. It's so weird to like deliver that info. Like, yeah, the guy who drank breast milk that I was talking about also died like very shortly after. But also, don't laugh at that.
Are you ready to move on to home game stuff?
Yes, home game stuff. What the fuck are you doing with CUDA? What are you doing?
Oh, bruh. Now listen. Okay, so for my this all goes back to the VTuber stuff, right? So my VTuber character is basically just me, but a little more people friendly.
Handsome.
Yeah. So yeah, handsome, people friendly. Just charismatic in general. Like I'm like the potato version of The Rock, and the VTuber version is the less muscular version of The Rock, if you know what I mean.
I don't. Continue.
No, but anyway, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to write a program that automatically detects faces and text and then blurs it out, so that I didn't have to manually go through and blur faces and text to help hide my actual identity. So I was writing Python to do that, and I actually got it to work kind of. Like, it works, I would say, like 70 to 85% of the time.
Yeah.
The problem is that 6 seconds takes about 1 minute and 30 seconds to process, which is that's like 15 times. So if I was gonna try to do this for like an hour and a half long walk of my dog, that would be like 15 hours, 16 hours. Yeah. So that's not working, right? So OpenCV is the Python library or whatever it's called that I'm using as like my AI and image processor, and by default it can use your GPU to process images, which is supposed to be like 30 times faster, which is huge speed up. So I had to learn CUDA, which is basically like the API wrapper for how to ask your NVIDIA GPU to run whatever set of instructions you're trying to run. Okay. So I needed to install CUDA and OpenCV, and I needed to install CUDA, and I needed to build OpenCV from source and build it with CUDA in it, so that I could then run it and have it run through my GPU to process images, which is really a long-winded way of saying it is very difficult to get that running when you have no clue what any of that is and you don't know Python, which is me. I had to actually learn rudimentary to advanced Python at this point because image processing is not as simple as I thought it would be. I have to learn the OpenCV library. I have to learn how to read Python documentation because that's very different than JavaScript documentation.
It exists, yeah.
Yeah, it exists. And then on top of that, I also need to figure out how to build something from source using like CMake on my Windows build, which I've never had to do a build from source like that on a Windows machine. So anyway, it's a long-winded way of saying I worked on a lot of stuff that wasn't home games, but very code-related, and I'm still not 100% sure where I'm at with it. So
yeah, cool. Yeah, that's super interesting. I have like this general awareness of floating point operations are faster on GPUs, and that's what a flop is or whatever, a floating point operation, and a teraflop's a trillion of them. And yeah, GPUs are better with decimals. It's like all I know generally, but I have no idea why. I don't know what the actual reasoning for any of that stuff is.
From what I remember right from like computer science classes is your GPU is basically just a huge amount of registers. And like it basically just like your GPU is like an enormous calculator, like a hilariously strong calculator. And it's really good at the like mathematical calculations involved in like rendering graphics and image processing and things of that nature. Yeah. Which is why like my processor was hitting like 98% usage, but wasn't able to process the image very quickly, even though I have like an i5, i7, something like this. So I'm not using like a baby processor. I'm using like a pretty okay processor. So, but yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. Have you ever worked with CUDA or any of that kind of stuff when you were working with Python? Because like I don't know what I'm doing.
I used to work with somebody who was like a data scientist type person who was looking into using CUDA to operate, like to speed up a model that they were working on. But they're like way fucking smarter than me, so I never really asked them any questions or said anything to them. So that's basically all I know. Some dude I know or I knew used to talk about it sometimes. But no, and then I just read it like on a, NVIDIA RTX whatever cards. It's just like, how many CUDA cores? I'm just like, oh, fucking sick. I gotta get that one. It's got 4,000. I don't even know what the fuck a CUDA core is. I'm just like, yeah, I gotta get that one.
I don't know either. Apparently that like some cards are too old and CUDA doesn't support them anymore. It's like you literally can't run CUDA operations on them. I think my card is like at the really bottom end of what's supported now with like 11.7. Which is I think their launch, like their most recent one. But yeah, I still need to figure out how to do CMake because that's what you use, I guess, to compile OpenCV from source. So
CMake. That just sounds like a build. Wouldn't you just make whatever, right?
Yeah, so you'd think that, but you need to like with CMake, you're supposed to like request CUDA gets built in, like baked into OpenCV. I think there's supposed to like a tie-in point where you say to OpenCV during the build process, like, hey, tie into CUDA. Otherwise, it doesn't tie into CUDA, and basically I have what I was using, where it doesn't actually use my GPU still.
Got it.
But the good news is that once this is done, whether or not I become a VTuber, this code will be somewhere, and people will have to figure it out a lot easier. And if we were ever going to do really heavy image processing, which we could, we would have code to do it.
Yeah. That would be cool. I've done a little bit of ML image processing stuff in Python before, but it was for classes, and it was, I think we talked about it before, but my frustration was always just that they're like, wow, check out this library. It's fucking magic. You just give it 100 images and literally call magic function, and then you give it the 101st image, and it'll tell you if it was like the first 100. And it's like, okay, yeah, this works, but what the fuck? I don't understand anything. So it's still very surface level, my whole understanding of that stuff. And I've written, it's like, oh, introduction to neural networks, write your own thing to do, this math calculation or whatever with a 2-layer neural network. You do it and you're just like, okay, I think I'm starting to grasp this. And then it's like, okay, now let's do facial recognition with a neural network. There's 48 hidden layers here. You're just like, all right, well, I'm out.
Yeah, that's the last thing I need to do is I need to train a network for me. I like a convolution network or maybe something else. But yeah, to like recognize faces or not to recognize, but to detect faces and text, and then to because applying the blur is done on the Python side, but the actual like recognition side, I need to have like the artifacts for it. Like I need to have my model done. I think it's like a CAF model or something like that. CAFFEE or something.
Cafe
Model. Yeah, I don't know, man. I straight up, there's like a hard limit on what I actually understand at what I'm doing, and it was lost when it was like, now install Python.
Yeah, Python, I have the same thing because I've been learning Ruby, kind of outside of all this stuff for the past 6 months. I fucking hate Ruby. And before I started learning Ruby, before you started learning Python, you and I would have these debates that were kind of half-hearted joke debates about Ruby versus Python because fuck Ruby, and then you say fuck Python. But here we are learning each other's thing, and I actually believe it. Fuck Ruby. But
Ruby,
Python is right.
Ruby is not. I stand behind my thought that like Ruby probably shouldn't be like a production environment build like product, but I love to play with it. Ruby's code looks like how I think about code. Python, I've honestly picked up Python quite quickly. I gotta say it's quite a clean language, and I actually like I understand what I'm doing with it like pretty quickly. I'm kind of joking when I say I don't know what I'm doing. That's mostly because I don't understand OpenCV or like the machine learning sides of what I'm doing. The actual like Python code within like 2 hours, I was like, okay, so like this is a for loop. This is how you do like a build a for loop. This is a tuple. This is like an array. This is like how you go over a range. Just how you select the first 2 elements in an array. Like this is how you do this. This is how you do this. Okay, like I'm starting to like get it. Like this is how you import. I still don't know what pip is or pipe, but I mean I'm using it, so there's that.
Pip is a package manager. Pip is essentially SciPy. NumPy and SciPy are just 2 number libraries, and then pip is the Python equivalent of npm. It's just a package manager.
Oh, okay, I see. That makes sense.
See, already you're a pro.
A pro, you say?
Fuck Ruby.
I'm a novice at best. But yeah, I gotta say, like Python, I think is way better for like doing a real deal project. I can't imagine trying to do this in Ruby. I'd die probably.
Nice. Well, that sounds exciting. It's nice to. I don't know, that kind of stuff I think is fun. It's super painful, I guess, to learn when you're like deep in the thick of all that shit. But at the end of it, it's always pretty valuable. So that's cool. And yeah, maybe we can take that to something in home games. Maybe in 2026 when we're doing 3D stuff finally, we'll be like, all right, let's talk about CUDA, boys.
I mean, the other thing you could do with it though is with image processing. Like you can do quite a bit of games using image processing, right? Like there's quite a bit you could do.
Yeah, like for sure. And I think it'd be I've thought about this kind of loosely in the past about if we have these kind of open source tools and open source community driven things, and everything is always kind of improved by everybody working on it, then we can start to introduce these essentially open source community made models of stuff for image recognition or audio recognition or anything like that or whatever. And so that it could be of use in games. People can take them and adapt them and then train them and basically like fork a model and train it yourself or whatever. Like, I don't know, you could do kind of cool shit. So it'd be nice to have in the way that we could provide a library to give you mathematical projection or whatever of vision. We can give you another one that gives you like simple confidence values of whether or not there's a dog in your picture, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was thinking about with it though is like if we wanted to make a game where what you say is very important, like you had to like talk into your mic and what you said was like important, you could build like a model that detects and then like pulls apart your audio. That might be an interesting game to make. I don't really have like an idea for a game for it yet, but I think it could be something in the future.
Yeah, like a simple what is it? I used to know this. It's ASR, automatic speech recognition, or whatever the field is, but basically just speech to text, the whole thing. But yeah, that'd be cool. Was that all for your home game stuff?
Yes.
Very nice. So my home game stuff was last week I was doing the productionizing stuff and I was boring as fuck, so I didn't want to do that anymore. Yeah, I still need to do the EC2 scripts and all that kind of stuff I had previously talked about when I'm deploying Pico de Gallo and the certifier. but at the moment it's not super high priority to do that stuff, and everything else is Dockerized. So I figured I would just start working on the asset service that I called Landlord a few weeks ago. I referenced for the first time Landlord because it's basically we have this problem of just to summarize, if people are making games and they have images or videos or whatever kind of assets that they have, we need a way to one, make sure that they're giving us assets that they own, so they're not just giving us random shit they found online. And then two, to make sure that we are able to provide that asset to everybody who is playing your game in a way that's sustainable, instead of just relying on whatever Dropbox link you gave us, or Google image result or whatever, stuff like that. So it kind of solves these two problems, and that's what the whole service is for. And at the beginning I thought, okay, it'll just be a simple just S3 proxy, essentially. Like you just upload through this thing, it'll put it right to S3, and then for retrievals you could just retrieve right from the S3 bucket, so we won't even have to manage that stuff. We can just put it into an S3 bucket, keep a record on our side of where it is, and then when you request it, instead of Landlord needing to give you your file itself through S3, it just tells you go to S3. Does that make sense? Just it's one less thing for us to manage, and S3 is fast, and they have ways to optimize media downloads through S3 buckets and stuff like that. So that was my initial thinking for what this service would do, and I started mocking up the interface for this service in the Homegames website. So I added a very basic skeleton of what I'm calling the game dashboard at the moment, where it's this you log into Homegames, or you go to the Homegames website and you log in, and you can have a button that'll say my games, my dashboard, my whatever, your things as a developer, as a Homegames person. And you can have a list of your games, and then that each game would have you could click into it and it'll show you the metadata, kind of the author and the name of it, the most recent version, the date it was created, the different, all that kind of stuff, and then screenshots and all that kind of stuff. And then you could also have what am I saying? I was totally on a roll, and then I forgot what I was saying. How did I lose what I was saying mid-word?
Your screenshots, your metadata, all that stuff.
Screenshots and your metadata and all of that stuff. Oh, anyway, my initial thinking was, you just have the assets, and I wasn't thinking so much about where that metadata would come from. I was just thinking about the assets themselves. If I have a game, then this game has assets associated, and kind of thinking of the schema there. There's probably a developer ID and a game ID and an asset ID and that kind of stuff. And I built out some DynamoDB tables. So one of them is for assets, one of them is for games, right? So that kind of thing. And then I realized when I was building out the UI for it, like, oh shit, where's all this data coming from for games? Like, where's the title going to come from? Where's the developer going to come from? Where's all of this going to come from? And then I realized that stuff needs to exist somewhere as kind of like a metadata, kind of like a catalog, the Homegames catalog. What games do we have, and what's all of the up-to-date metadata about those games as of right now? Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we need a way to programmatically extract metadata from the source of truth of what Homegames is, which is the code. So if we have master or main, whatever the fuck it's called, the main branch on GitHub of Homegames, and the GitHub API will tell you things about it. It'll tell you, hey, this is the head of the current of this branch. Here's the author. Here's the commit history. Here's basically everything in the GitHub UI you can get through their API, which is super nice, and we can get info about the code. But in terms of the Homegames specific data, we would need to generate that ourselves and store it ourselves. So we can't just use the GitHub API to pull all of this data. We would need to manage our own thing to know that these commits were actually associated with swearer or layer tests or whatever, and not just the code exists here. And so all that stuff should also probably live in the same service, landlord, whatever, because it's assets and ownership and metadata and all this kind of stuff. And maybe it'll live somewhere else in the long run, but at the moment I'm thinking of it living in the same place. But I think I need to set up something like that where again, it just reads the same way that the builder, when you update Homegames, the builder's like, oh, there's new code. I need to go and build a new version and then put it over here for you to download. This other thing needs to say, oh shit, there's a new version of the code. I need to look at it and figure out what's new, figure out what's going on in it. And like, okay, well, now my catalog is these 50 games by these authors and whatever. And when you have this data, you can generate this admin UI, like I had mentioned, where people can manage their own games and manage their own assets and that kind of stuff, and maybe change metadata. And it also kind of adds some technical complexity, obviously, into home games for kind of a network thing where we have this service to pull data from instead of just having code on your system that you're running, and it kind of needs to call things to know about Square instead of just saying, hey, I've got Square here. Anyway, that kind of stuff. But the other thing I thought of that would be super, super cool is when we essentially have a API for the home games catalog, we can then programmatically generate a visual catalog of games. So you can, on the Home Games website, with the same data source that I'm talking about for all this admin, things that are necessities because of building games and the, managing them yourself and whatever, managing all the things that are involved with these games. In the process of building this, we can build this whole other thing where we can kind of show a cool visual representation of all of the games available at any time, completely programmatically. So if someone makes a new game, our catalog just updates and it pulls this new data, it gets your screenshots, it gets your title, it gets your whatever, and you, the developer, are immediately featured in this thing that we put front and center as like our games. Home Games games. Here's what we have. Here's what Home Games is. Like, I know it's confusing. Here's what Home Games is. Like, you download it yourself. Yeah, it's weird, right? Anyway, here's all these games. You can play them. You should download this. Like, make it clear what we're offering or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, that catalog I think would be cool. And I was like on a fucking roll when I was thinking of this stuff. Like, this whole board behind me is like full of shit because I was just going nuts. But I thought too, in the future, if we ever had people who gave a fuck about this, wouldn't it be super, super cool to use that same API generated data that's generating this visual catalog on the website to make like a physical catalog, have like a limited, like 50 of these were made, but it's a physical catalog that we generated of like the state of home games as of, it's like the Home Games December 2021 issue or whatever. Here's everything that we have, like all this shit, and it like features developers in their games and the whatever, and it's generated with a fucking API.
That would be pretty sick. I mean, I think it'd be even cooler if we could figure out a way of being like, oh, X number of people played this game, so we could be like, what are the most popular games that we have? That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like all this metadata stuff, we could definitely track and kind of have all that meta around the community and kind of whatever. Because I do think a huge focus of this stuff needs to be the developer. You need to incentivize people to like want to make things. It's like a really weird proposition to say, hey, I built this framework and I built this thing and I also have this podcast. Like, check out my thing and like invest time learning it and then invest time building a thing for it. It's like you need to give people a reason to do stuff, and I think promoting developers like as a thing always is like, here's your game and your content and your stuff front and center. Like, fuck me and fuck my platform. Like, you make games, that's cool. Like, that's what it's about, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that whole thing is exciting. And obviously we'll see what happens or whatever, but at the moment that's just kind of where my head is with where the service is and what it needs to be.
Yeah, that would be pretty sick. Question on it though, would that compete with the like get metadata function that we have on most of the games?
Yeah, I think it would, because get metadata at the moment is essentially just give me info about the code as it is. But if we wanted to take a step out and say, give me metadata, like something like a screenshot could be referenced in code, and that's cool, and maybe it ultimately should be referenced in code, but it seems like there could be another more flexible way to introduce metadata that a game developer can contribute to. Basically a way for a game developer to say, this is my game description, and I didn't have to change code to say what my game description is. And there's a line about what could be defined or what should be defined in code is kind of like a good, kind of control measure of it living in code is a good way to monitor changes and track history and all that kind of stuff. Whereas having something like a description block of text in a database is kind of different from that. Like no one really gives a fuck if you have like a recorded history of your description. Anyway, yeah, there's some things to figure out there, but you're right, it would be doing the same thing as that. Probably need to be an expanded version of that same thing.
Yeah, okay. And then my next question on it is, I think maybe we have talked about this before and I just don't remember, but with Landlord, how is the build process going to work? I mean, if somebody wanted to build home games for just local, like offline, they wanted to build it for like offline play, like they were going to just set up like a LAN that doesn't connect to like the outside world's internet. How could somebody do that using LAN? Like, could somebody do that even though we're putting all of the assets into Landlord? Like, would we have like an option like download with all assets? Because that could be like huge.
Yeah. So we have the button to download all assets now, and that's just downloading. That's just essentially a for loop running through the set of all defined assets in code, looking at the URL and saying, do I have it? If not, I'm going to download it locally. And if I do, or if I don't, or if I do, I'm going to skip it or whatever. Right? Basically, just download everything in the list.
Download everything that's used, correct?
Download everything that is defined in any game.
Okay, I see.
So, and that's kind of the nice thing about the way that we use assets is that the squisher will just call one function that says, give me all of your assets. And so therefore a thing has to define all of its assets in some sort of static way. And if all these things are defined in a static way, then we can read them kind of consistently and without whatever. Anyway, that's the whole thing. So, yes, it's just downloading everything that's defined in any game metadata or in any game assets stuff. But in the future, if we have 100 games, then that will become unreasonable if there's 10 assets in a game and you're downloading 1,000 JPEGs or whatever because you want to go in offline mode. So we'll probably need a download assets on a per game basis, that whole kind of a thing. But with Landlord, it doesn't, I mean, basically the whole thing with offline is when you want to go into offline mode, tell me what you want to do offline so I can get everything that you need online while we have it, and then I can go offline. And so that same kind of concept will be there when Landlord is there. Landlord is, like, functionally nothing will change in Homegames code. It's just the service it's talking to instead of this kind of generic URL, anything existing on the internet. It is a system that we know we manage, and it's kind of a more consistent whatever thing to access. But ultimately, it's all the same thing in terms of the way it functions. It's just a file lives somewhere, and you can download it before you don't have internet access. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
But one other thing I was thinking is maybe we should rethink this whole thing of games existing in the Homegames core repo, and maybe it becomes something where a game list that, like, the list of games that Homegames has in it right now in this build are defined in your package.json, right? It makes sense to me to have individual games be individual npm packages or some other whatever sort of thing, some sort of package that depends on Squish. It's a pure thing. This is my repo on my account. I'm not Homegames or whatever. Like, I made a game and it depends on this, and this is my code. I can publish a version of my game, like a build of my game, and then the Homegames CR becomes adding the game as a dependency, not adding the game code for us to review and kind of like this big whatever thing. Maybe we can look at the code obviously as a part of the process, but as a way to more clearly organize the way that Homegames is, and Homegames is really just the set of rendering systems and tools and that kind of stuff, and then games kind of use these tools, and adding something to Homegames is actually just adding it to the list of things Homegames knows about, and not necessarily adding it to the core repo, because the repo becomes huge if we have 100 people working on games. I know, like, maybe you've seen the Linux repository on GitHub, and it's obviously fucking massive, but I don't really think I want that. It doesn't seem ideal to me, like a huge thousands of lines of code in a repo. I don't want that.
Yeah.
And so, and I think another thing kind of one of the core reasons when I said this out loud, and it made me realize that the way that we have it is wrong, in my opinion, is if Homegames is on version 1.5 and Yazeed goes and makes a game and he wants to add it to Homegames, Yazeed goes and makes a code review for potentially hundreds or thousands or however, well, it could be a crazy huge game. I mean, we don't really have a limit on that kind of stuff. It could be thousands of lines of code that you put up and you say, hey, I want to merge this into Homegames. And it starts this whole process and kind of this back and forth, and hey, can you change this code and can you do whatever? Can you make this cleaner? Can you make this nicer? Meanwhile, like, the system moves on and whatever, all that kind of stuff. But eventually this thing is merged after probably a pretty painful CR process. And then in order to actually kind of publish that new version, to make that new version, I'm realizing this problem always exists. Anyway, to make that new version published, you have to bump the Homegames version. Like, I added Yazeed's game, now it's Homegames version 1.51. Now it's version 1.52. Homegames didn't change, we just added a game. But I guess it makes sense. In my head, that seems wrong, but now that I'm saying it out loud, like really out loud, it seems fine. Because your version of your thing has more things as it goes on. And I don't know, man. I guess I was just thinking of this game cataloging service and this asset service and all this thing basically being Homegames metadata as a service. And if we have Homegames metadata as a service, then it makes sense to me to have what games are available in Homegames as metadata and maybe not live in the repo itself. And so if we say that Homegames has these 100 games and these are the packaged like locations for me to pull them in at runtime or whatever, instead of building with this from the start, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know. I think I understand what you're getting at. I was trying to think of some of the
downsides.
Logistics of it too. Yeah.
Oh.
Not just the downsides. I think there is some positives to it, right? Like individual code reviews, PRs, pull requests, however you want to call it. They're really small for you and me to look at that because it's just like, oh, here's the package that I want to add into it. But it is more than just that for you and me because we actually have to go and look at the code and make sure that what they're trying to do is actually like fits to our legal acceptable criteria, right? Like what do we legally have? Like what is our legal criteria on a game in Homegames? If it meets that criteria, then like, okay, we can bring it in. Otherwise, like no go.
And I think everything that's legal, everything legal is defined super clearly in rules. So everything that we should try to automate. Like, if we can programmatically check that every asset you use is actually stored by us, we can programmatically check that. If you make sure that there's no references to certain things or whatever. Example, programmatic, but the other stuff we would have to have them.
Yeah, we don't have that. We don't have that limit. Yeah, I agree. What we could programmatically do, we should programmatically do. But I think some of it's just going to be you and me are going to have to like go through and look and make sure. But I think that there's some real positives and downsides to it. I agree with what you're saying. Because what I was thinking about is like, say I want to make a game called like Pizzeria, right? Mm-hmm. And I put out a PR for my Pizzeria game, and it's the whole game, like the way we currently have it, where I put out this huge PR, it has like all of my stuff, Pizzeria, whatever. While mine is in code review, you put out a game. Your game is also called Pizzeria, named exactly the same. We have the same folders. Now we have a merge conflict between two people who don't know each other or they're not on the same team. They're completely unrelated people, and you and I can't sort out that merge conflict. It's not a conflict. Those should be two separate things. So I think it's easier on us if they're like, here's my NPM package of my game. You and I need to look over it to make sure it meets our criteria. And then if there's like a merge conflict there, we can be like, hey, this like person X put in the game request for the same name. Can you please change like your package name, or like put an alias on your package or whatever you want to do with it. But yeah,
we could namespace it to developers or something, so instead of just slash games.
We could do something like that too. But we couldn't do that with. We could, but it would be like super jank. I think we have like weird nesting doll folders type thing. So yeah, I do think I agree with you. Just surface level, like within like the last few minutes of you talking about it, I think I agree with you that the NPM package is the better way to go. I'm just thinking that maybe we're gonna run into some hard headache of it, of like, oh, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I would need to build a proof of concept to know if it's a good idea. I'm just kind of throwing out the idea of that whole thing. And like you said, with downloading assets, it would also allow us to download, instead of download all assets for all games, it is download this game and its assets. Because if we have 1,000 games, and they're all relatively large or whatever, as we add more and more and more, obviously this repo just gets more kind of crazy huge, and a lot of that code is, you're not looking at /source/game/whatever unless you're specifically interested in that whatever. And if you know that whatever has a name and a whatever, it should probably live in its own thing instead of my code base. If it's really like a self-contained thing, it could live somewhere else. But if we have 1,000 games, then it becomes too crazy to have all of those always available to you. Maybe that becomes too large to have on disk or whatever, so you can just selectively download. I want these 10 games and their assets and these whatever, so then you start to just pull in stuff that we've defined as available.
One thing I was going to say about that, though, is maybe we do want to keep some games in the repo, like really simple games maybe.
Sure.
Just to be like, hey, these are like some, like, use like example games, like Homegames made it. So like you can look at it, you can like get a feel for like what we're looking for in our code, like what we're looking for in a game, right? Because our games will meet the criteria. They have to, because we made them. Yeah. So you look at those games, you can see how like all the pieces work together and stuff like that. Because if somebody's first learning, it's going to be awful. Because if they don't know, like, oh, I have to like go look at this package now and like go read the code for that package or whatever. You know,
kind of an all-in-one starting place, basically.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But I do agree with you that maybe people who aren't, and I think honestly, like even for you and me going down later down the line, right? Like if you and I made 10 games a piece, maybe we only put like 3 or 4 in the repo a piece, or maybe we put like maybe 5 total in the repo, and the rest of them become packages, just so that people can have like a base starting line of like, this is what a game looks like code wise. This is how you use all the pieces for it. So it's like example, but also like in the repo, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, again, I don't really know. It's kind of a fuzzy idea at the moment, and I would need to kind of build out an initial version to see where all this falls apart, because I know there's stuff I'm not thinking of. But yeah, just kind of going forward, just thinking about if what we're doing right now is the best option, and I'm not super sure. So
yeah, agreed. I mean, yeah, if you think of more stuff for it, I think that would be good. I think that's a good move towards it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll spend some more time this week looking into that. I had one other thing. I just had some thoughts earlier today about, or not earlier today. Earlier this week, I was playing Devil Daggers, like I do, and I've mentioned it before, but I just really love their replay feature. I think it's just pretty perfect. Basically, it's just, if you have every run you have, it'll record quietly in the background. Not like a screen recording or whatever. I don't know how it's recording, but it's recording the game. And then at the end of it, you have like a replay that you can just watch, but it doesn't show you that replay unless it's like your best run. I'm wording this really weird. Basically, when you get on the leaderboard, it'll save the replay of that run. That's the end result. It records every one of them, but you don't have access to it unless it's the leaderboard run. So if I go and I beat my high score right now, when I go to the leaderboard and I see my name on the right of it, it'll be a little eye. I can click that eye and I can just watch the run. And this is true for everybody. And so you can see how the first person, the best dude in the world at Devil Daggers, how he got his score. I watched it today and it blew my fucking mind. I didn't know you could play the game like that. I have like 90 hours in the game, which is insane. So anyway, long story, but I was just really impressed by the replay stuff, and I realized we could implement that in Homegames pretty easily, because we already have this thing of every game state change triggers an update to this kind of representation of the game as a screenshot, basically, right? Every state has a corresponding representation as a game thing that is rendered. which I think is kind of fucking cool now that I'm thinking about it. Like, damn, that's software, huh? But on each of these renders, we're already saying, hey, basically send this to everybody so they can render it on their screen. But we can also just say, and also keep it in a buffer and put it in a list. So whatever, and I'm saving the history of every single state change of the game, and within it is the ID of every single person who had everything everybody can see. All of it is encoded in the game. So as a result, you can basically build like a timeline video editor style scrubbing thing, like a YouTube whatever, of here's your entire game that you just had, and you can just go to any frame because every single state had a frame to correspond to it, and you can just go through it, play it back at regular speed, half speed, see it from Yazeed's perspective, see it from Joseph's perspective. All of these things you can just do if you just store those instead of just sending them out. You store them and then send them out.
Mm-mm.
It's like nuts. So I think it'd be cool to build that as, ideally like a nice common tool for people to kind of tap into and whatever, to access that data that we automatically save. But yeah, I think it'd be cool.
Two things with that. One, immediately my first thought was, wow, wouldn't that be amazing for bugs? Right?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
We ran into this bug. Here's when literally the frame it occurred, and and as a developer, you can be like, "What was the state of this like?" And then you could be like, "Oh, it is a bug for sure. I gotta fix that." One, two. League of Legends actually implemented something similar to this. They call it a time warp, and it only happens in professional play. But basically, if the two teams and it's like a big bug, and that they can warp back in time, they basically roll the game back to a previous state. Which is pretty sick. So, like, if we ever had like a hyper competitive game, having this in it would be nuts. It'd be like, oh, we're playing this fighting game and this guy broke the game using this specific bug under the specific timing, and we're just like, no, don't worry about it. We roll it back like 25 frames, and then we're like, okay, we're gonna resume now.
Yeah, that's super fucking cool. Yeah, it has like an actual usage for games, and it, like you said, with testing. It has if you think about, okay, this saved state of the thing, of the tree, is really kind of like a save game. You can actually recover from this. If I just have one frame of the game, I actually know who was in the game and the state of every single person at the time of whatever. If your game can kind of, based on the facts it knows about here, if it can get to a state where it can basically recover something there. For testing, you can actually do a thing where, say, I know there's a bug in this particular frame. I think I fixed it in my code here. Basically, just call the recover function, recover from state with the bad state, and see how it operates. Basically, just plug in the bad state to your code and just see what happens when whatever. And it's like, it's a save game, but also a video, and also a testing tool. It's like pretty fucking cool.
Oh my god, I just actually thought about how sick you could use an actual game for. Do you remember like the old Prince of Persia games?
Yeah, like the rewind time thing.
You could actually legitimately just be like, oh, you died. Would you like to rewind? And you literally just rewinds frames, and we could actually play those frames in reverse.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And we can expose all those tools to developers to make it easy to build something that does that. And yeah, that whole thing. I think there's so much cool shit, dude. I'm like mad that I have a job.
Here's what you do. Here's what we do. We both become VTubers because you only need to stream 3 times a day, right? Or 3 times
That's
a week.
That's a lot.
Sorry.
Okay.
3 times a week. 3 times a week is the minimum, right? And there's no minimum amount of time you need to stream, right? If we make comparable money to what we're doing now, we're working 3 times a week streaming.
Yeah.
You know, you get a lot more time for home games. All I'm saying.
It's true. I don't know, man. Life is hard, and I have a lot of things I want to do on home games, and often it's just,
that honestly, I know that the like package site or like the catalog and stuff like that is probably like way more like, oh, like this will be like a much bigger impact on stuff, but the idea of like replaying frames is just amazing to me. I love it. Because the other thing too is what you could, oh man, there's just so many possibilities with that. It's hilarious.
Well, if you also think about think about streaming. Like it's already streaming to everybody in the house basically over Wi-Fi. But if, say, you wanted to just share a video feed natively, kind of with people just outside of it, instead of your server being the actual server for possibly thousands of people or whatever, or instead of streaming over Twitch, which people would do, like I mean an actual native built-in streaming thing, within a Homegames client, you can have the game streaming to their client. But again, instead of your server being the bottleneck, your server can just take this frame and basically just pipe it out to one other data source, which is then sitting behind an actual scaled infrastructure that can feed out this stream to everybody. So then you can have thousands of people with a Homegames client, like a native Homegames client, not a video feed, and they're spectating this, but they're not playing this, but it's actually all scaled through this other service because this one thing just has the data piping out to one data source. It's not serving the actual traffic.
It's like the old demos from CS and Quake and stuff. Oh my god, that's sick.
Yeah,
that's sick. That's sick, dude. Hell yeah, I'm all
like
about
all this
that.
shit.
I don't
is
know
so
why
rough around me.
demos stopped becoming a thing, but like that used to be like really popular on like old school FPSs.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted to go pro? Where are your demos? Show us your demos, and you literally just send tape of you playing in like almost exactly like in that way. And if you were good, they'd be like, this guy's good or this person's good. Like maybe give him a shot. Now it's like, oh, this idiot streamed on Twitch and got 5 million viewers. Are they good or are they just entertaining?
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's just him playing shitty CS:GO while he talks about like being a pimp full time or whatever. It's like, okay, this isn't actually about...
Don't call me out before I become a streamer.
But yeah, that's basically all the stuff I had for home game stuff.
God, I'm so excited for the replay stuff.
Yeah,
there's so many things you can do with it. It's like the streaming, you can just send demos to people.
Yeah.
Oh my god. You could... Oh my god. All right, like literally straight up, if we ever had like a real competitive, like professional play kind of game, people could just view the game as it's happening. They can't interact with it. They can just be in the room watching the game and like watching the players move. Like what is their vision? Like what is the opponent vision? Like how can you even follow what they're doing? Oh my god.
Yeah, you can like see from different people's perspective as a spectator or whatever. And we already have all this spectating functionality built in, but it's kind of a different way of doing it. Like this would be like a public spectator, which would need infrastructure and our services and stuff like that behind it. But yeah, we could definitely do something like that. And then basically just the PS4 or PS5 functionality of you hit the share button and you get the option to like record the last or save the last 30 seconds of gameplay, say the last 5 minutes. You want to start streaming, you want to whatever, like all that kind of stuff we can basically do with the way that all of our stuff works. We just don't have that yet, obviously.
That's nuts, dude. Very nice. That's gonna be super cool.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see. We'll talk about this probably at another thing, but like on another episode. But I'm very excited for like my June to December, basically.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Is it time for Song of the Week?
Yeah. Oh, real quick, before we move on to Song of the Week, I actually forgot to say this during my actual notes. Guess who learned to ride a bicycle this week?
Like a regular pedal bicycle?
Like a regular pedal bicycle.
Was it you?
It was me.
Very nice. What made you want to learn how to ride a bike?
I've wanted to learn to ride a bicycle for a long time, mostly because I would like to get a motorcycle at some point in my life. And so I learned how to ride a bicycle. I'm not very good at it. I'm like a 7-year-old still, where I don't balance so good. I also don't go anywhere near a straight line. Like I'm like all over the place, like snaking river kind of approach to it.
Yeah.
And I can't always use both of the pedals. Sometimes I have to use a pedal and a foot. But we're getting there.
Yeah, progress is progress.
Yeah.
Did you bust your ass several times in the process?
I didn't fall at all, actually.
Wow. No, I tried learning to ride a bike when I was like 8. My uncle took me to the park, and I think someone else tried to teach me too. Anyway, it was a pain in the ass, and I fucking hated it. I hated every minute of it. And then the second I was able to ride in a straight line for 30 seconds, I was like, cool, I'm never doing this again. I still haven't. Are you gonna go back? Are you gonna like become a bike guy, or are you just kind of like,
I'd like to be able to ride a bike at least to the point where I can take my dog with her running and me riding a bike. Basically, go bike joring.
Joring?
Joring.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll believe it.
Basically, like she rides ahead, or like not rides ahead. She like either she runs ahead or she runs like on your side, and you ride your bicycle while you're doing it. And the reason I want to do that is because that means she can run and I can ride the bicycle, and it'll be comparable in speed. Because right now, either I run at approximately her speed, which is still too slow for her, and I gas out because that's like my full sprint, or we run at my speed, which is like a little joggy for her. So, you know, if I'm on a bike and she's, you know, I can pedal pretty hard eventually, probably. But yeah, that's the plan.
Nice. Well, you're already a better bike rider than I am.
No,
I'm pretty sure I forgot.
I can't. You said you can go in a straight line for 30 seconds. The longest I went was for 7 or 8 seconds. So I really am still learning. It was kind of funny because while I was learning, my neighbor was like, "Hey, you learning how to ride a bicycle?" I was like, "Yeah," and they were like, "Oh, I've been riding for like 65 years." I was like, "Whoa, that's sick. I've been riding for like 6 minutes."
It's always like the most intimidating type of person. I'm sure someone who says I've been riding my bike for 65 years, they probably think that you read that as like, wow, they can help me. But like to me, I read that as like, oh my God, like get the fuck away. I'm gonna embarrass myself in front of you.
Yeah, I'm like, please just close your garage door. Don't watch what's about to happen. Like you're like somebody who has deep respect for their bicycle, and I'm out here like almost eating dirt. But yeah.
Well, nice.
All right, song of the week.
Song of the week.
I want to start. Your song of the week was "No Instructions" by Benny the Butcher. What a banger, my boy! Oh my God, just an intensely good song.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about some of the bars before we started recording, but yeah, No Instructions, Benny the Butcher. What was your favorite line, Yazeed?
Oh man, there's a couple in there. The one about the Quran and the Bible, I like that one. That one was good. The other one where he was like you really gonna let these rappers tell you or like convince you to do stuff that they've never done themselves? Yeah. And he's like, nah, it's not how that works. And I was like, that's like both of those lines like so sick. But like this is also like the like I don't listen to a lot of rap, but like this is like my favorite kind of rap almost.
Yeah.
Like I love this style, like this the beat, when he's rapping to it. Like I know it's not like cutting edge, it's not, but I love it. It's just like it's so clean, it's so like boom boom boom, like everything he says feels like it has some like real weight and punch to it. I love it, dude.
It's all intentional. It's not like throwaway lines. It's like if he says a line, it's because there's a pun or a meaning or a reference or something. It's not just bullshit, which is nice. Yeah, like he does switch up the flow a bit, which is nice. It's like he'll rap and he'll be like the kind of standard textbook just rapping, but then little now and then he'll kind of change up the cadence or whatever. It'll be kind of different, but yeah, the long enough to do a drive-by for 2 blocks straight. That's the one that it's just like, God damn it! When that line happened, for everybody listening, the line is. You not safe, this clip in my new Glock's great, long enough to do a drive-by for 2 blocks straight. And he says it obviously a lot cooler than I just did. But when that line came on, I added this to the playlist, and I made a mental note that this was my song of the week. I was playing this song on repeat like the entire weekend.
Bro, that's what we
it's fucking insane.
That's what we this whole week, man. I'm straight up, but that song is probably the best song I've heard in a month. That song is intensely good. Holy moly.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's interesting. Like Benny the Butcher had this, and then he had Burden of Proof was his most recent album before this, and I really didn't like that one. I only liked one song, but I liked it a lot. And at the moment, I can't remember what song it was. And it's kind of the same thing for me on this. This album just came out on Friday, The Plugs I Met 2, and it's I only really like No Instructions so far. I don't really love the other songs, so kind of interesting.
I don't know. I don't generally just listen to full albums, so I'll take your word for it. But if there's another song that's like, ooh, hits like this, man, let me know. Give it to me.
Will do. It's like basically one song off of every Griselda album has this type of thing for me, so it's pretty consistent, like a few times a year. Really quick, I also have to mention the other one was Heard You Said You Could Fuck With Gang. Now that's a bold statement. I'm like, how? Your flow basic, hoes low maintenance. You got caught with the whole cake and you got probation. And then in the back, he's like, how the fuck that happened? Because if you rat on people, you'll get a lesser time. It's how you get caught with the whole cake and you got probation, you know? Fucking crazy. The way he rhymes, the way he raps.
That song hits, man. I love that song. That song is sick. I've only heard it once so far, but it's literally, I think I listened like a minute and I was like, all right, this is going on. I think before any of the lines that I really liked even happened, I was like, this song is going into the playlist.
Nice. Your song of the week was the Disc Hunter Daniel Deluxe remix by Waveshaper. This song was super high energy. It reminded me of like the Hotline Miami soundtrack, where it's kind of like it puts you in a trance with the like repetitive electronic sounds, and it's kind of just like feels like a heartbeat on like ecstasy or something. It just has that vibe.
I think Waveshaper did do some music on Hotline Miami 1 or 2.
That would make sense. It sounds like a familiar name or whatever, but yeah, super cool. We played this outside before we started recording. Me and Snowy were out on the porch playing this on the laptop, and we both kind of shared a look like, okay, this slaps. Was just
yeah, I like Wave Chaser, and this is like one of the songs I like by Daniel Deluxe. It's this one and another one that's not like super high energy. What I actually like about the other one that he did is, I think it's called like Star Eater or something. Like that one feels menacing. This one just feels like, all right, you just kicked the door down. What are you gonna do about it?
Throw a shotgun at a guy. Yeah, it was a cool song. I don't really have much else to add, I guess. Obviously a little repetitive, but that's kind of the nature of the music it's supposed to be. So super cool. I liked it.
Yeah, nice. I'm glad. I'm glad you liked it.
And that's all I had for everything in my notes for me.
I have a rapid fire question.
Okay. Rapid fire question. Do we even do the music for this?
I think we've done it occasionally.
I've skipped it a couple times. Anyway, I'm playing the music right now. Okay, I think it's done.
Okay. So, this week I made a lasagna for the first time. So my question to you is, what is your ideal lasagna?
Gotta have ricotta cheese. Mm-hmm. Some people do cottage cheese. My mom used to do cottage cheese. I've seen, I think, on Binging with Babish, or maybe it was the Basics with Babish, he did cottage cheese. He said that's what he prefers. I think that's wrong. You gotta have cheese, but you can't have too much cheese. Too much cheese is actually a very possible problem on lasagna. You got to make sure the pasta and the sauce and the meat are kind of there, or whatever protein, whatever, doesn't have to be meat. Whatever you do, whatever you're doing. Can't be too saucy, and the pasta needs to be present. That's my ideal lasagna.
I see.
Like you need to feel the pasta.
I got you. I mean, this was my first attempt, so I made a couple of mistakes. One, I used too small of a dish, so it spilled into my oven, which made my whole house smell like
burnt tomatoes.
Tomato sauce, basically. It's not great. Some of my oven still smells like smoked tomato sauce. I don't know what to do about that yet, but
gross.
I'm gonna fix that. But yeah, I think I hit all of your criteria.
Nice. Well, yeah, my bar isn't high. It's basically just any pasta with sauce and cheese in a dish. I'll eat that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I messed up. I know personally that I like the Impossible Burger meatless ground beef stuff. Like I like that. I don't like the like spicy Italian sausage meatless stuff that they make. I really don't. But I used it anyway because the recipe I had called for sausage too, and I used it, and it ruined my lasagna when I got too much sausage in it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't even like regular Italian spice sausage, like actual meat sausage. They go so hard on the seasoning in that, and it's just like this tastes like earth. It doesn't taste like meat anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I have another question for you. I asked JC this question, so
Okay.
you'll be up against JC on this one. What is your fixins for the ideal burger?
When you say fixins, is that just everything that goes on it?
Yeah, like the toppings and stuff, like everything from condiments to like bun to like vegetables, cheese, fruits, whatever you do.
Okay. All right. I'm painting you the burger picture in my head. You got a brioche bun at the beginning. You got that at the bottom. Very important. You have one beef patty, never two. One beef patty that's like almost too thick. Almost. You look at it and you're just like, fuck, that could have been two, but maybe you're right on that one. I don't know. When you're kind of on the edge, that's what you want. I'm kind of torn on the cheese. I think a slice of cheddar on that is probably enough to melt because it'll melt with all the kind of residual heat of all the whole situation. And American cheese just isn't my favorite, so I think I'm gonna have to say cheddar on that. And then on that you put a fried egg, and then on the top bun it's just mayo, ketchup, mustard. Yeah, no tomatoes or lettuce in my thing. It's simple. It's just simple, but with an egg too.
I got you.
Yeah.
I see.
What's your ideal?
Mine is also brioche. Mine is brioche, patty, Munster cheese, patty, Munster cheese.
You got two patties?
Two patties.
Fucking animal.
There's. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Barbecue sauce, slices of pineapple, lettuce, top bun, with some mayo on the top bun. I know you don't like pineapple, but I like the combo of pineapple and barbecue sauce.
This dude has pineapple, barbecue sauce, and mayonnaise on a brioche bun with two patties.
And lettuce, and 2 slices of cheese.
This is giving me a panic attack just thinking about what this even looks like.
I mean, it is like this tall. It is like this tall. You really, when you can't put it in your whole mouth like that. You gotta like really like squish it down and then you go for it.
That's the kind of burger I'm trying to avoid. Like there's a place in town that they make really great burgers, and I made the mistake one time of getting their double patty thing, but each patty is like that thick, and so when there's 2 of them, obviously you have to like unhinge your jaw or whatever to get around it, and it gets so messy, and then you just have burger falling out, and then at the very end of it, it's like the top and bottom buns are like that big and they're that thin, and there's just like this much meat in between them, and it's like, what the fuck is the point of me even pretending that these are doing anything anymore? It's just a mess.
That's very funny. The reason I'm asking about that one, and not to really harp on this VTuber stuff, but I was watching a Japanese VTuber, and she was going through the American Wendy's menu, and she was freaking out. She was like, 2 buns, or not 2 buns. She was like 2 burgers, 2 patties. What is this? And I think at one, I don't remember what it was, but she was just like, wow, America's got it all figured out. It's like really cracking me up. Just in Japanese, somebody saying America's really got it figured out, looking at the Wendy's burger menu.
I mean, they're not wrong. We definitely do have it figured out.
It's down to, I mean, really, like, if you think about it, I think she was looking at, like, the prices and then doing, like, a conversion. And I don't know what the prices are in Japan, but she was kind of panicking at how cheap our burgers are here. Because I guess in comparison, it would be, because we have just so many burger places. Your burgers have to be, like, cheap and, like, pretty good quality, too. Well, not good quality, but, like, at least taste good.
And I don't know the quality of, like, I'm sure Japanese beef, at least here when you say Japanese beef, there's a reputation of it being high end. I don't know what, like, mid-tier Japanese beef is like, but I imagine it's probably nice as fuck compared to our, like, mutant cows that we just, you know, whatever we do, however we grow our cows.
More meat per cow.
Yeah. Like Mondo Burger cows.
Mondo Burger. Yeah.
You've seen Good Burger, right?
Yes.
Okay. I was about to be very disappointed in you, but you saved yourself. Anyway, was that all that you had for
That's all I got. That's all you boys got.
Okay, then that is going to do it for us. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, our music was done by our friend Tynan. He is Nitan on Bandcamp. That is Nitan, Nytan. Our website is homegames.io. We'll be changing that soon-ish. You should go to that website, though. You can see the old version before I take it down. Our Twitter is homegames.io. That is at homegames.io. No spaces, no underscores. It's just all one thing, homegames.io. And then our email address is podcast@homegames.io if you want to send us questions to be read on the podcast or
a death threat.
Send us a death threat at podcast@homegames.io. We'd love to hear them. We'd love to hear how you're going to do it. See you next week. Thanks for listening.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.